Hello everyone, I am Luke, and welcome to the 65th battle of the Promethean Directive Season 2, where we have a really large clash at Leporidae, the capital of the bunnies. They've got one big, really cool looking laser defense there, and a bunch of other towers. They wanted to have two of the laser defenses, but because they had just had because they just had one in some towers in the very last battle last turn, required them to not be able to totally change it out, so they just got one upgraded tower, which, as you can see, is about to get rammed really badly. They did give it a docking station drone that was meant to be a shield wall to protect them from rammers, but it actually did not work. Something went wrong with their blueprint, or some part of the battle setup. And so a lot of stuff like the helicopters got stuck, the shield got off-center and undocked. So ultimately that really hurt their chances here. Without it, they would have had a lot better chance of winning. I don't know if they would have, but it definitely didn't help things. They are under attack by a pretty large coalition of Rumelian ships, Eon Hive walkers, and some Rumelian long-range missile spammers you can see in the background there. There might have been other people here, but I can't remember. You can see that the laser has lost its, laser part, and that was the point in which it was fairly obvious that this battle is not going to go too well for the bunnies. That defense is like the vast majority of their budget here, or at least the vast plurality of it. And with it being pretty much fully inoperable, then that is really bad. And it's taking a lot of damage too, so it's not going to be as good of a meat shield as they would like for as long as they would. Oop, and there goes one of the lagomorphs too. Prior to this battle, the bunnies were given the option to effectively throw in the towel on the war and get event help fleets to assist in defeating them, but then they could go on a cool fleeing across the world arc with event support to bolster their forces and help rebuild. Ultimately, they chose to fight on and lost this battle, but we still let them get away with a retreat and some boosting to go help make the northwest corner interesting after the Black Empire quit and the River Kingdom got defeated. So they're still carrying on with part of their plot line, but not very quickly. Oh, if you're wondering why that guy in the center of the frame there is wonky as heck, that is because his breadboard got hit, but his AI was not killed. So without the breadboard, the spin blocks just kept moving at whatever speed they were going before. But because the AI mainframe, which was presumably directly next to the breadboard, didn't get hit, it was still able to keep fighting and put in some good hits like that one. I do not want to imagine the ungodly amount of code that is in those breadboards, but I'm sure it's really cool. Walkers in this game are quite neat. And if by chance you didn't catch on, this is a post-battle recording, because this was a pretty long battle to run. The second one done by Graver. I am once again on my new rig, which is so nice, because I can render these things like 3 times as quickly and upload them super fast too. Which means these things still take a long time to do, but it's a lot less of a long time to... There's one of those hovercraft drones for the bunnies in the background. I think one of those will end up retreating and forming part of the basis for the bunnies in exile. But it'll be a minute before we get to that. see now there's only a few craft left. There's a defense or two, that hover tank in the background, and then I believe there's another craft over in the water. So there's a lagomorph that's not showing up on the map because it came with the hovercraft, I believe. And it's still at 98, so it can do a lot of damage before it ends up leaving, and I believe it will. Yep, that guy managed to escape and retreat, which is why it got despawned. And that leaves just the lagomorph left. Here's the last remaining lagomorph, and last remaining force in the whole battle. It's kind of just been moving around. I believe it'll spend the remainder of the battle trying to chunk through that cruiser. Although it just annihilated a Loita there, casually in the background. It's pretty cool. I know that the quadcopter controls were much pain for Boat who made it. And it's nice to see cram cannons get used by more competitive players, because they're a cool weapon system to see aesthetically that just often gets forgotten because it misses too often. But this here is like a perfect use case. Being able to bombard ships at pretty close range. During the live battle at this point, we were trying to calculate whether or not it would manage to sink the ship before it got killed itself. At this point in time, I can't remember what we came up with, but I do believe that the ship will die, and with it provide a pretty hefty cost for the attackers, although certainly one that's worth paying when you can capture the capital city of your enemy of many years. That's a remarkably durable thruster caster, I have to say, for how much damage has been taken. It is quite impressively still alive. Still alive and still firing very large frag crams at that ship. It's now at 78%. Just setting some of the walkers so they wouldn't move. Again, that hovercraft is so, or that aircraft, whatever you'd call it, is so durable. It's remarkable how long it's been surviving the combined efforts of an entire, multiple fleets. But the cracks are starting to show. And it finally goes down. With it, such will end the Battle of Leporidae, the very last battle, presumably. It's been about 5 turns and we still haven't had any more, so I assume this will be the last of it. It was very close to sinking that cruiser. I guess I was wrong about whether or not it died. It did, in fact, survive, but basically crippled. No propulsion, hardly any guns, but ultimately the attackers paid the price that they needed to win this battle. So congrats to them, and thus ended the great bunny, Eon Rumelia, whoever else war. Enjoy your last look at those walkers, and thank you all for watching this one.